Hello and welcome to Face to Face. Today we have amongst us Mr. Vidyarthy Chatterjee. And my repertoire of words is too meager to offer a fitting description of this person. He is a trade unionist, a film enthusiast, a film critic, a film theorist. He has been an activist of the film movement and whatnot. He has written books, award-winning books, Calcutta Films. He won the Chidananda Dasgupta Award for his book Calcutta Films in 2021. And it is indeed a great moment for us to have him as someone with whom we can talk and know his thoughts. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Face to Face. Sir, you have been a trade unionist and you were brought up in Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur is an important site for trade union movement, especially when we recall the movement of the 1958, the historic strike. So could you please tell us about your childhood? Just tell us something about your childhood and then how you came across the trade union leaders, how you saw them, what were your experiences as a child?
I was born in 1948. I started going to school in 1954. It was a Christian missionary school run by Jesuit priests from the United States, helped by a few Indian brothers. It was a kind of an contradictory, as it may sound, an elite upbringing while at school. Even as at home, we were very middle class and we were very aware of labor problems, labor issues, because Jamshedpur being what it was, and it still is, one of the capitals of Indian capitalism. In school, they used to show us a film every Saturday. It would usually be about Christ or the saints. Sometimes it would be about noble-hearted white cowboys versus cruel red Indian savages. Sometimes it would be science fiction. I remember Time Machine, or films like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or Around the World in 80 Days, and things like that. I don't remember ever having seen at Loyola, that was the school, named after the founder of the Society of Jesus, ever having seen a film directly or even indirectly doing with labor issues. People who earn their daily bread by the sweat of their brow. It was much later, after I had left school and came to the big city for my education, that these questions, on hindsight, began to puzzle me. Why, in our curriculum, there was no mention of the laboring classes? And even if there were, how did it escape my attention? Why were the films that we saw there in the school auditorium didn't have any working class men and women, the laboring man or woman or even child? But of course, you see, my father, who in order to run his family had to have a TISCO job. He had a small job as a chemist in the chemical laboratory of TISCO, Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited. He had to do this, as he used to tell us, for, let's put it like this, dal bhat considerations, to run the family of 4 children, parents, some other cousins who had come to stay with us, plus the domestic help. But he was proud of the identity he had outside the factory. That was a stringer journalist. He was a stringer for the Press Trust of India, covering the industrial zone, Jamshedpur, Ghatsila, Chakradharpur, and all that. How he managed to do it, only he knew, but he did it. He held a job over there. Actually, they were for more than 2 decades or more, I think, I think he worked 18 hours a day to keep the home fires burning, to pay for our steep tuition fees, and to maintain a facade of middle class social hospitability, etc., etc. So now, when I came to Calcutta to study, and then began to see films like, let's say, Bicycle Thieves, or Jantrik, or Shoeshine, and later on went to so many other working class masters, right up till the other day, the Kaurismäki brothers, especially Aki's films on the Finnish working class, which has specifically talks of the Finnish experience, but it has universal, universal impressions. So these are the things that I know. Now you said one thing, I have never been a film theorist. No, I have been a film lover. I have been a kind of a sociologist of cinema, but I've never been a film theorist in that sense, And as to my being a trade unionist, it happened in Calcutta. But very consciously, I was working on certain models of how a trade union leader should be. A man of struggle, a man of sacrifice, a man on whom the workers could depend, that I had seen in Jamshedpur during the 1958 strike, the historic strike by the steel workers of Jamshedpur. That was ironically the 50th anniversary, the golden jubilee of disco. Pandit Nehru had come to open the Jubilee Park. And it was that year, actually, that almost a military-style operation was conducted by TISCO with the help of the state apparatus to put down the strike. Now, when I came to Calcutta, at one point of time, I went to work as a so-called officer, information officer, in a very large steel and engineering consultancy firm, where I found it is really big, this firm, one of the 6 top consultancy firms in steel and engineering, heavy engineering, recognized by UNCTAD, as big as that, making crores of rupees of profit in the 80s. I went there and found that everybody was being well taken care of by the management, except 500 employees who were in the lowest rungs, the peadas, the peons, the record keepers, they were having to live on beggarly wages. There were no facilities for them. The other 700 who were engineers, structural engineers, civil engineers, metallurgical engineers, they had a fun time over there. And there was a kind of a relationship between the management and these 700 engineers and officers and accountants and things like that. But the other 500, it's as if they had no contribution in the running, the successful, ultra successful running of this firm. It was at that time that the idea began to haunt me. What would people like Comrade Kedar Das, Comrade Ali Amjad, Comrade Barin De, Comrade Dr. Udayakar Mishra, what would they have done in such a situation? These are all Jamshedpur trade unionists. All belong to the undivided Communist Party, to the AITUC, All India Trade Union Congress. What would they have done? Am I so selfish? Have I to prove myself so middle class as to turn a blind eye to the daily trials of these 500 people? I was still in an undecided state when one day, because of, this dress that I was wearing is unimaginable in that kind of Western style Calcutta firm, that somebody would come to office in this style. I was going there. And there were snide remarks. I don't know why absolutely top one or two people, they never pulled me up or they asked me to come in, trousers and shirt and all that. They allowed it. So I was going there. Because perhaps of my dress and my very common features and my way of talking to people, mixing around with people, I suppose that is what made some of those piadas and peons one day come to my chamber and said, "Sir, we are very badly treated here. Something needs to be done." I said, "You unionize." "Sir, we have made attempts, but for lack of leadership, every time the management has been able to suppress the effort." I joined them. Without an iota of professional knowledge, working knowledge of being a trade unionist, I went there. It was a kind of an emotional response to a fervent plea from people who I thought I identified with. The union was floated, this time with a big gusto. Not a single engineer became a member, but a whole lot of the lower rung employees, they became members. It continued for 17 long years, 86 to 2003. And perhaps that company would have had a full-fledged union today, and the workers would have been assured of better pay, better facilities, better working conditions. If just when the time came for us to get a judgment from the Calcutta High Court, which we thought would not only reinstate us, I lost my job and 4 others, they were in the lower categories. That's the way actually feudal capitalist employers operate. SARKAR though, cut the head and cut the legs. The legs, the lower categories, they are doing the legwork, running about and all that, putting up the posters. And the head says, well, he says, these are the things that should be in the poster. But pasting it and then climbing onto the ladders and putting it on the wall, that is the legwork. This is the head work. Both are equal. The head will not be able to do without the legs. And the legs in a trade union movement will not be able to do anything with that. Anybody who knows the history of the Bolshevik movement, of Stalin, this is all in not only the Bolshevik movement, any mass movement, That is why I say you need the elite. What you don't need is elitism. Without elite is very essential. And the elite is basically coming from the different strata levels of the middle class. The middle class who brings about revolutions, and the middle class who in course of time acts as counter-revolutionaries, right? Why I put all this in perspective in our condition, in the experiences that we had. Just as we were about to be rethought, reinstated with full back wages, the advocate who belonged to a communist party, who had been in power for 34 years in the state, a big worthy, he stabbed us in the back. He made a peace with the lawyers of the management. That man now, I don't know, dignifies the Rajya Sabha by being a member there. You see, I think I'm a good film lover, at least to myself, because I've had a crowded life. Perhaps a bit chaotic, but also very creative. When you have a crowded life, you'll have different things, contradictory, complexities will come in. And this is what enriches our life. Success, joy, happiness, as Isabel Allende says, people should not get too worked up, excited by their joy and success. These are only accidents. They come and go. It is the setbacks, the failures, the disappointments that empower man. We learn from our failures. We learn from our setbacks. And when sometimes times have changed, but such films are still being made. Many people like me are still going to the theatre in search of stories, narratives of the kind that I have told you. And then they see those people and they say, oh my, I thought I'm the biggest sufferer in the world. But look at this woman, look at this child, look at this man. He has suffered or she has suffered much more than I have. And they have emerged from the struggle more resolute in their conviction not to give in. So there is an identification syndrome working here. You alone in the temple of cowards, as cinema has been called by one. But I think it is a very lit dungeon. Only that thing is lit. Because I belong to that time when people were not seeing films like this or on their laptop here. No. For me, cinema means that. A community experience. Seeing it with many others. Sharing the jokes and sorrows of the narratives of those protagonists.
And that means film played an important part in your indoctrination.
Absolutely. I couldn't have come to a better art form than cinema.
Okay, so when you came to Calcutta for higher studies, that means at that time you saw films by Ghatak, Sen and other masters. So that played an important role in helping you understanding the people around, the common people's plight.
Absolutely.
You came to understand their plight.
Absolutely, absolutely.